The bedroom door was open. That never happens in my house. We always keep it closed, especially after my accident, because I need peace and quiet. My back's been shot ever since that car wreck. Spine doesn't hold me upright for long. The doctor said I'd be in rough shape for at least a year, maybe more. I tried to follow their advice. Got myself a special mattress, a brace for long walks. Even gave in to letting this guy, Dr. Edwards, come over twice a week for checkups. He was supposed to track my recovery, note any progress. I never liked the idea of some stranger in my house, but my wife insisted. Said it was what I needed. Said the insurance covered it. So, who was I to argue? Anyway, that day, I came back from a short drive to the pharmacy. Not something I do often, but I needed a new prescription for the pain. My wife stayed home. She said she'd clean up the kitchen, maybe watch some TV. I tried calling her from the car, just a heads up I'd be back soon, but she didn't pick up. No big deal, I thought. She might have been in the shower or reading upstairs. But when I walked in, the whole house felt wrong, too quiet, like somebody hit the mute button on life. I set my keys on the counter. Normally, she would have at least called out a hello or asked if I got everything I needed. Not this time. I remember standing in the hallway, the one leading to our bedroom, looking at that door. It was just a crack open, but enough to see that the lock wasn't engaged. We normally keep it locked if one of us is inside. A habit we picked up to give each other privacy. But that day, the door was ajar. Something in my gut started to churn. My back spasmed a little, so I reached for the wall to steady myself. I thought maybe she's napping. Maybe she just forgot. Still, the silence felt heavy. I took a few steps forward. My legs aren't great these days, nerve damage from the same accident, so every step takes a bit of effort. I was halfway down the hall when I heard something, maybe a shuffle or a rustle. Then it stopped. Dead quiet again. I glanced at the clock on the living room wall. The second hand ticked, loud as a hammer in my ears. My heart pounded harder than my steps. I tried to breathe through my nose, keep calm. But every inch forward felt like I was walking straight into something I wouldn't be able to handle. I leaned against the doorframe and peered in. At first I couldn't piece it together. My wife was on the bed, knees drawn up, eyes shut tight. Another figure hovered over her. Pants around his ankles. I recognized the voice before I recognized the face, Dr. Edwards. The same man who'd been showing up with his little black bag, stethoscope around his neck, telling me to do my exercises, measuring my reflexes. And here he was, right there, his hands on her thighs, their bodies pressed together. They didn't see me. They didn't hear me. I don't know how many seconds passed, but it felt like the world stopped spinning. My spine, which usually screams at me for every minor movement, went numb. I just stood there, staring at them. I think I should have been furious right then. I should have yelled or cursed or something. But I was empty, like somebody scooped out all my insides. My wife's hair was fanned out on the sheets. She had this expression, a mix of tension and something else. Pleasure? Pain? I couldn't tell. She was miles away. And him, he was breathing fast, muttering something under his breath. I let out a cough. A deliberate one, the kind you do when you enter a room and want attention. They jolted. He spun around, tripped on his pants. She curled into herself, covering up. For a moment, he looked at me like a deer in headlights, eyes wide, mouth open. Then he started fumbling for words. I can explain. Or something just as pathetic. I glanced at my wife. She wouldn't meet my eye. Maybe she was in shock, or maybe she was just ashamed. I don't know. I noticed the clipboard on the dresser, the one he used to jot down my progress. It felt surreal, seeing that ordinary object in the middle of this. I cleared my throat and said, "Excuse me, doctor, but I think you forgot to sign my recommendations." My voice didn't even shake. It was cold, almost polite. Then I turned around and left the room. Didn't slam the door, didn't punch him, didn't scream at her. I just walked out. I headed straight to the couch, lowered myself down. My back flared with pain, but I barely felt it. My mind was busy unraveling. I heard them rustling in the bedroom, maybe trying to get dressed. I thought she'd come running out, try to apologize or give me some excuse. But nobody came. Then, maybe a minute later, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I looked up. It was him, Dr. Edwards, tucking in his shirt, face flushed. He wanted to say something. His mouth kept opening and closing, but I just stared at him. He dropped his gaze to the floor, then turned and left out the front door. Didn't say a word. For a long time, I sat there, waiting to see if I'd explode. But I didn't. I just felt this deep ache in my chest, like my heart was being squeezed. My wife was still in the bedroom. Maybe she was getting dressed, maybe she was crying. I don't know. I just couldn't move. Eventually, I heard her steps on the floor. She hovered in the living room doorway but didn't come in. I heard her breathing, fast and shaky, like she was scared to speak. I didn't look at her. I focused on a single stain on the coffee table, some old coffee spill I never noticed. Minutes ticked by. My back started throbbing. Finally, she turned and walked away. That night, I lay in bed alone, staring at the ceiling. She stayed downstairs. I didn't hear the TV. Didn't hear music. Just silence. Everything felt hollow, like the house itself was breathing in and out, carrying memories I suddenly hated. We'd bought this place together 20 years ago. Raised a few dogs here, celebrated birthdays, decorated for Christmas. And now all I could think about was that image of her under him, eyes shut, lost in something that had nothing to do with me. Morning came. She wasn't in the kitchen. The pot of coffee was cold. My back screamed as I bent over the sink. I needed my pills, but I realized the prescription bag was still in the car, untouched. I walked out to get it, nearly falling on the porch step because my legs decided to go numb for a second. A neighbor waved from across the street. I managed a nod. At that moment, I thought about how normal everything looks from the outside. Just a crippled old man going about his day. Nobody would guess what happened inside that house. Nobody would guess the kind of betrayal boiling under my skin. I took my pills, sat in my truck for a while, and stared at the road. Could have driven off right then. Could have left for good. But part of me said, not yet. Not without a plan. And I don't know where that voice came from. It was calm, clear, telling me to do something more decisive. Something that would wipe out any sense of normalcy. Because normal was gone. Everything was different now. I went back inside. She was in the living room, perched on the edge of the couch, eyes swollen. Looked like she'd been crying all night. She opened her mouth, but I raised a hand to stop her. Didn't want to hear it. Not yet. I limped past her, rummaged in my desk drawer until I found an old notepad. I scribbled a note to myself. Doctor's recommendations, he forgot to sign. I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Then I tore the page out, crumpled it, and tossed it aside. Couldn't bear to even think about that jerk in a professional capacity anymore. I looked at my wife, and for a second, my anger swelled. But with it came this crushing sadness. I could have shouted, asked her why, asked how long. But words felt too small. Instead, I just muttered, I'm going out, and left. Never gave her a chance to reply. My mind was buzzing, planning. See, I knew about our bank accounts. I handled most of the finances. I also knew that we had a chunk of money set aside, my pension, our joint savings, even a separate fund we'd built for funeral costs in case something happened. I got in my truck and drove to the bank, my spine on fire with every bump in the road. When I got there, I took out everything. Emptied it all. Nobody asked too many questions. They knew me as the old regular with the back injury, the one who always talks about the pills not working. The teller gave me a concerned look but did as I asked. I transferred it all to my nephew's account in Kansas. He and I had talked a few times about investing or saving for his kids. So I figured let him keep it safe for a while. He's a good kid. By the time I was done at the bank, it felt like I was floating outside my own body. Couldn't believe I was doing this. I thought about her back at home, probably wondering where I'd gone. I stopped at a gas station, bought a bottle of water, and stood there in the fluorescent light, sipping and shaking. My reflection in the window looked old and tired. Gray hair, lined face, eyes that had seen too much. I leaned on the counter, took a few deep breaths. I didn't cry. Couldn't cry. Just felt numb. I got back in the truck and drove out of town, past the industrial area where nobody usually goes. There was a deserted stretch of land with rusted barrels, piles of old junk. I pulled over, opened the truck bed, took out the box where we kept all our family stuff, hard drives, photo albums, even that old laptop we used when we first got married. I'd stacked it all there before leaving the house. I wrestled a metal barrel upright, tossed in everything, pictures from our first road trip, her family photos, the ones with her dad in his uniform. Then I lit a match and dropped it in. The fire sparked quickly, licking the edges of the photographs. Smoke billowed. My eyes stung, but I just stood there, watching years of memories curl into ash. I thought maybe I'd feel relief or vengeance or something strong. Instead, I just felt hollow. Like I was erasing my own life. And maybe that was the point. If she could betray me in such a way, then what good were those pictures? They were all lies now. After that, I pulled out her father's uniform. We'd kept it in the garage for years, hung in a clear garment bag. The man was a proud veteran. She always said it meant the world to her. I tossed the bag aside and held the uniform up, thinking about how she cherished it. And then, God help me, I unzipped my pants and pissed on it. Didn't care who might see. It was a vile, angry moment. I can't say I'm proud of it, but at the time, it felt like I had to do something so outrageous that I'd never forget it. A final statement of disgust. Then I stuffed the uniform into the fire too. When I got home, she was in the kitchen. I walked right past her, didn't even look in her eyes. She said my name, tried to grab my arm. I shook her off. My back twanged, reminding me of its weakness. I wheeled around, and in the calmest voice I could manage I told her, "You're dead to me. Even your name. I'm gonna forget it." Her face crumpled. She tried to speak, but I turned away. My mind was set. I'd already burned our history, pissed on what she valued most. I was done. I packed a small bag, just enough clothes for a few days, my medication, some toiletries, and I left. She stood in the doorway, tears streaming, but I didn't look back. My truck rumbled as I pulled out of the driveway, and I thought, that's the last time I stepped foot in there as her husband. I didn't know where else to go, so I called my brother. He lived a couple hours away, had an old trailer where he let me crash. He didn't ask too many questions, just said, "Come on over, man. Stay as long as you need." I drove out, my back aching worse than ever. But I didn't care. Hurt or not, I was leaving. And that was that. Those weeks at my brother's place were quiet. We sat around, drank cheap beer, watched late-night TV. He tried not to pry. But eventually, I told him a piece of what happened, that I caught my wife with her doctor. I didn't go into detail. He nodded, patted my shoulder, said something like, "Damn, that's tough," and let it be. That's what I needed, no judgment, no speeches. Just a place to lay my head and let my spine recover enough for me to stand without shaking. Then one afternoon, as we sat on the old porch steps, he turned to me and said, "You know Dr. Edwards, right? He's not just some physician. I heard from someone around town that he's been with your wife for a while." I felt a chill run through me. I asked him what he meant. He took a drag off his cigarette. 3 years, maybe? That's the word going around. He was at your house before the accident, right? I nodded, feeling the bile rise in my throat. I didn't know what to say. 3 years. That would mean they'd been sneaking around for a long time, making a fool of me the entire time I was working, building a life. I stared out at the dusty field in front of the trailer. The grass was dry, crackling in the breeze. My brother flicked his cigarette butt, shrugged. He didn't know how else to comfort me. But I appreciated his honesty, even if it cut me deeper than any words my wife could have offered. Because it meant that the moment I found her under him, that wasn't a one-time betrayal. This was a lie that had been living in my home for 3 long years. And I'd been too blind to see it. I spent the next few days in a haze, trying to piece together every suspicious moment, every odd look or unexplained absence. My memory dragged me back to that fishing trip last summer. She said she had migraines, so she stayed in the cabin while I fished alone. And all that time, she was with him. Probably laughing at me behind my back. I remembered how he would come by the house sometimes as a family friend. He'd bring a bottle of wine or some chocolates, say it was just a friendly visit. I'd thank him, clueless, thinking how nice it was that my wife had a friend in the medical field who cared about us. I saw it now, clear as day, the way she'd lean into him when they talked, the way he'd rest his hand on her shoulder, the way her laughter at his jokes was just a shade too bright. I used to be glad she was laughing. At least she's happy, I'd think. I was such a damn fool. I wanted to break everything in sight, but my back said otherwise. My body was too battered, too tired for physical outbursts. So I just bottled it up, let it fester. My brother saw it in my eyes. He tried to get me to talk more, but I clammed up. I'd say, "I'm fine," and leave it at that. Because words wouldn't fix it. Nothing would fix it. It was done. She was someone else's woman now, and I was just the idiot who happened to be married to her on paper. I lay awake at night, my spine throbbing, the old trailer creaking in the wind. My brother's dog would sometimes bark at shadows outside, but mostly it was quiet. I stared at the ceiling, counting the water stains. 2 weeks passed like that. Then I packed my stuff again, told my brother thanks, and drove back to my house. Didn't know what I was going to do, but I had to face it. I couldn't hide forever. I let myself in. The place smelled stale, like it hadn't been aired out. She was in the living room, pacing. When she saw me, her eyes lit up with relief for a second, then went dark again when she noticed the look on my face. I said nothing. Just limped my way downstairs to the basement. That night, I spread out an old sleeping bag and lay there on the cold concrete floor. She didn't dare come down. Maybe she sensed it was best to leave me be. And that was the start of my silent stretch, 3 weeks without a word to her. I'd come upstairs to use the bathroom, maybe grab a bite from the fridge. She'd watch me, tears in her eyes, try to speak. I'd ignore her, walk away. My back was killing me, but I didn't care. I found an old foam mat and put it under my sleeping bag. I used a couple of boxes as a makeshift nightstand for my pills. I was living like a stranger in my own home. But that was better than sharing a bed with her or a table with her. Better than acknowledging the woman who'd stabbed me in the heart 1,000 times over. She tried. God, she tried. She cried, apologized, claimed she still loved me, all the usual lines. I'd hear her sobbing upstairs late at night. I'd lie there, staring at the basement ceiling, listening to the pipes rattle. No pity in my chest. Just numbness. I told myself, she's dead to you. And I tried my best to believe it. I thought that would be the end of it. But something inside me whispered that I wasn't done yet. Something told me I needed to do more. I'm no hero. I'm not a saint. I'm just a broken man who got tired of being played for a fool. And so, in that cold basement, with my back throbbing and my heart burning, I started planning my next move. Because if there was one thing I hated more than her betrayal, it was the idea that they could walk away unscathed. That they could sleep at night while I suffered. So I waited, gathering the energy, gathering the nerve. That's the kind of man I am now, patient, quiet, harboring a storm inside. And when it was time, I acted. I set up a small recorder, just an old digital device we had lying around. I hid it in the living room, under a cushion or behind a stack of magazines. Whenever she came to me, talking, begging, crying, I'd nod or grunt, keep my answers short. Meanwhile, the recorder would be running, picking up every word, every confession. I did that day after day. She spilled everything. How long it had been going on, how she felt guilty, how she never meant to hurt me. I just let her talk. Didn't say much. But I was listening, and the recorder was capturing it all. She had no idea. She probably thought I was softening, maybe about to forgive her. She'd cry and say, "I was confused, he was there for me, I was scared when you got hurt." On and on. I let it pile up. I saved every file onto a USB. And each night, down in the basement, I listened to it, letting her words slice through me like a dull knife. Reminding myself why I was doing this. When I had enough, I started searching old emails, texts, photos. I found a trove of evidence. Some pictures of them together, messages about meeting up. I even found some short video clips. Enough to paint a clear picture of everything they'd done. And I compiled it all, an ugly little package of their affair. Then I found Dr. Edwards's personal info online, his home address, his office address, even the emails of people close to him. He was married with kids. He was respected in the community. I set up a new email account, loaded the files, typed up a note. "Here's the truth. Let them live with it." I sent it to his wife. Sent it to his boss at the hospital. Sent it to every friend I knew he had, every mutual acquaintance we shared. I didn't forget the kids either. Yeah, it was cruel, but I was past caring. They deserved to know what kind of man he was. And if I'm honest, I wanted him to feel a fraction of the pain he caused me. I wanted them all to see the filth he brought into my life. Then I sent the same package to our friends, my family, her circle of acquaintances. I didn't bother writing a long explanation. Just attached the photos, the recordings, the videos. The raw truth. Let them interpret it however they wanted. I pressed send, one contact after another, my body trembling with adrenaline. By the time I was done, my back was on fire, and my mind was swirling. But I felt a grim satisfaction. It was late when I climbed the basement steps, found her in the kitchen. She saw my face, saw the intensity in my eyes. She asked, "What did you do?" I just said, "I told them." She paled, stumbling back against the counter. Then the phone started buzzing. Hers, mine. Messages pouring in. I didn't bother to look at them. I just walked outside, stood on the porch in the cool night air, and breathed. For the first time in weeks, I felt something like relief. She ran after me, screaming, "You ruined everything!" Her voice cracked. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I turned to her and said, "No. You did." The wind whipped around us, cold and punishing, but it felt right. She collapsed onto the porch steps, sobbing into her hands. I stared out at the dark street. In the distance, a dog barked. A car passed by, headlights illuminating us for a split second. Then it was dark again. I went back inside. She stayed out there, wailing, calling my name. I didn't care. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and limped to the front door. My back spasmed, nearly taking me to my knees, but I grit my teeth and kept going. I'd done all I could here. Time to leave. Because there was nothing left to salvage. Nothing left to say. Now I'm in this cheap motel on the outskirts of town. It's damp, smells like old cigarettes, and the internet barely works half the time. I'm living on a small disability check, plus whatever I can scrape together now that everything else is in my nephew's account. My days are slow, mostly the same routine: wake up with my spine stiff, pop a pain pill, stare at the peeling wallpaper. Sometimes I watch TV, but the reception's lousy, and the channels are garbage. I can't sleep much at night, because the bed is crap and my thoughts keep me awake. But it's fine. It's enough. I heard through the grapevine that Dr. Edwards lost his job. His wife kicked him out. People found out about his affair, and he became the local scumbag. That's good. Serves him right. As for her, my wife, or ex-wife, or whatever she is now, I don't know where she is. Don't really care. Maybe she's still in the house. Maybe she moved in with relatives. Doesn't matter. She's gone from my life. Some nights, when I'm lying here, staring at the stained ceiling, pain radiating through my back, I almost feel a twinge of regret. Like, did I go too far? Was it too cruel to send that stuff to the kids, to humiliate them publicly? Then I remember the look on her face that day I caught them. The way they were so wrapped up in each other, they didn't even hear me come in. 3 years of betrayal, right under my nose. I shake off the regret. Because in the end, they're not sleeping well either. And somehow, that fact comforts me. I'm not a hero in this story. I'm just a broken old man trying to figure out how to keep breathing day after day. The pain never really goes away, my back, my heart, my pride. But each night, when my eyes won't close and the walls feel too tight, I remind myself, they're probably not sleeping either. And that's enough to keep me going. I don't need happiness right now. I just need to know that I didn't let them get off scot-free. Maybe someday I'll leave this motel, find a better place, try to rebuild. But for now, this is where I am. A man in a dingy room with a throbbing spine and a satisfied vengeance. If there's one thing I learned through all this, it's that sometimes you have to burn every last photo and memory to move on. And maybe, if you're lucky, the flames keep you warm in the cold nights ahead. I doubt I'll ever see her again. Maybe, in time, I'll forget her face the way I promised. Maybe not. But right now, I'm just focusing on my next breath and the slow creep of dawn through the broken blinds. Everything else is done. And if I never have another day of real peace, I'll live with that. Because they won't either. That's the only justice I got, and it'll have to do,